Hello, everybody. Welcome. We're joined today with Jamie. And if you're here with us, make sure and shout out, give us a hello. We are talking today with Jamie Mills, who's a dietitian. She's also called the Sleeved Dietitian on Instagram. And we're talking about progress over perfection. I feel like this is a most excellent topic because, weight loss surgery, I believe it can be challenging, but it's kind of one of those things. I think it's one of those long-term commitments that we make to ourselves. It requires us to not only change our physical body, but also all those long-term habits and routines that we kind of get into. And so Jamie's going to talk to us about that because really, and Jamie, actually, I didn't even tell you this before we started, but she recently put a post on her Instagram page, and I was like, oh my God, I can so relate to this because you were talking about the same topic, progress over perfection, and about your own journey, about, consistency, persistency, just kind of sticking in there and doing those things, even if doesn't look perfect every single day. So I'm really excited to kind of talk about this because for anyone out there that is kind of has that perfectionist mindset, I don't know if anybody else can relate. I know I can. Jamie probably can because I can see it in your personality.
I was just looking at some of the comments. I'm so excited that everyone's so excited for this presentation. I'm really excited to be here. So thank you for having me. I saw Heidi said in there that she feels like she needs to focus on this because having OCD and perfectionism, I can relate to that 100%. I too have OCD and I'm a perfectionist by nature. So it's sometimes really uncomfortable to get out of that all or nothing mentality. And it can be it actually sounds like counterproductive, but it's actually a lot of work to get out of that all or nothing mentality sometimes. But I'm going to talk about that because this is an overall theme that I have with all of my clients and all of my tribe members and something that I talk about day to day, because if we're going to be consistent and sustain these good habits, we can't give our 100% every single day. We will cause so much burnout. And also the idea of being perfect is false. Whatever you're seeing on Instagram where everyone else looks like they're perfect or doing everything 100%, no one is. And it's okay to slow down a bit, and it's okay to have what I like to call it a B- mentality, which for those straight A students like I was, it's really hard, but kind of like a B's get bariatric degrees is a good enough mentality. And we're going to talk about that today.
Yeah. It's when you kind of make a commitment for weight loss surgery, sometimes you do get online and it's so easy to compare ourselves to other people. And I know my previous role before working with ProCare as a consultant was actually working for a bariatric surgery department, and patients would come in all the time and they would say, this is usually post-op. They'd say, okay, I'm 3 months, I'm 6 months. And I saw so-and-so posting pictures. A lot of times it is, we look for inspiration, and there's nothing wrong with that. Online, when you see other people posting their before and after pictures and you see people posting their stories. But what you have to remember, there's a lot more behind the scenes than just that picture. And everybody's bodies are so different. For me, I had weight loss surgery. And the same day I had surgery, 2 other people had surgery. Like this at the same time. I was a coordinator, but 2 patients in our program had surgery. And if I would have done comparing, for myself, my weight loss was right on track and their weight loss was right on track, but it looked very, very different. Like one person had a BMI of 60 and my BMI was 35 when we first started. So his weight loss at 6 months was like 100 pounds and mine was like 30.
And that's something that, and I wasn't really going to dive too deep into that today because we only have so much time, but one of the things I do tell people in comparison when it comes to the actual weight loss is, by nature as humans, we track weight loss in pounds, but in terms of bariatrics and tracking your overall progress, it's so much more beneficial to track in percentages. So like you're saying, if you're looking at someone saying, oh gosh, she had surgery the same time as me, she lost 100 pounds, I lost 30. Well, your percentages could be the same depending on where you started. So it's such a good point that, we only see one piece of the puzzle, and it's so easy to beat ourselves up and be like, well, what's wrong with me? What am I doing wrong? And I think sometimes when you don't have that, really comprehensive education or a set up plan to be able to feel really confident in your journey, it can make you think you're not doing enough. And that idea of I'm not enough, or that idea of enoughness can really spiral into some self-sabotage, which is why I'm such a firm believer that in order to get out of that perfectionist mentality, having really solid nutrition education is really important, so that you can feel really confident and empowered making your choices without always doubting yourself. Because that doubt can lead us into that spiral of that start again Monday mentality, and we don't want that.
Yeah, it can start again right now, like the second. I have to remind myself that sometimes. Jamie, I'm going to be turning the floor over to you. I just want to say before I do that is if you're joining on several different forums, we have Facebook and we have Crowdcast here. Please feel free to keep the comments coming. We see Jamie's, we see Heidi's, and we see Ashley's. So please keep the comment. We'll keep reading those. If there's anything we can add as we go through, we will do that. And I want to also just say, same with Facebook. So Crowdcast Facebook, keep the comments coming. I'm going to be muting myself so that you don't hear background noise at all, but I'll unmute myself periodically. Jamie, if you share your screen, sometimes it may be hard for you to see the comments, but if you can't, just know that I'll be kind of pausing periodically and letting you know when there's a new comment.
Okay. Do we want to take comments and questions throughout or at the end? It doesn't particularly matter.
It's up to you.
Okay. Yeah. I'm going to move along. Let me know if you have questions. I'm going to get started because I want to make sure we have time, because I have a lot to cover with all of you today, and I want to make sure that I'm able to explain all of the things. Also, I apologize ahead of time if my dog starts barking. She is laying in the hallway right now, being the good guard dog that she is, but she can see like out the window and will definitely bark at the mailman if he comes by. So. All right. So I've never used this platform before, Brenda. So can you just tell me how I should go about sharing my screen?
Sure, absolutely. At the very bottom by the chat box, there should be a little circle with your initials. And then beside that is a audio, a microphone, a camera. The next one is share something.
Give me one moment. It's prompting me to update something in my preferences before it will let me. I'm so sorry. I didn't know that I had to do this beforehand. Let's see. Okay. Let's see if we can share this now. Okay, I think we're good to go. Can you see my screen, or did that not work? I can't hear you.
Unmute myself. That helps. When you press the share screen button, it'll give you like a bunch of different options. Sometimes you actually have to click onto the option. It's kind of strange.
I did not mean to do that. It's giving me an error.
Okay.
It's saying something with the browser. I don't usually use Chrome, but I know you said that I had to use Chrome to get on here, so I'm just making sure.
Okay. I was going to say, you're welcome to send it to me, and I can, you can tell me when to move through too, if it's helpful to you.
It wants me to quit. It's trying to it's making me quit out. Can I just close out and come right back? Is that okay?
Sure. Absolutely.
Okay, so
yeah. No, you're good. You're good.
Back.
So we'll keep talking while you're coming in and coming back. It's totally fine.
Okay.
Yeah, no problem at all. And if you need to send it to me, Jamie, feel free, and I can help share screen too. It's not a problem.
Okay, thank you. So sorry, I'll be right back.
No, it's all good. We usually test before, but we didn't. It's all good. Should have did that. So guys, if you're just coming in, we're talking about progress over perfection and basically what that looks like in Jamie's world. And I was telling her, she had posted on social media recently and was talking about this very thing and about her own journey, sharing about, like what your everyday looks like. Do you like the things that we talk about, like nutrition? We talk about exercise. We talk about tracking. We talk about water. We talk about, all those things as a weight loss surgery patient that's recommended. And sometimes we get caught up in thinking that you have to be perfect in doing each and every one of those things every single day. And we would love to be able to say that we do those things, but how many people do you think actually are absolutely perfect every single day? Probably not. I can't imagine that everybody is able to hit every single check mark every day. It looks like it's sharing, Jamie.
I think we got it. Okay. So just so that that's not what I want to show you. I was in my email, sorry.
No,
I'm new
it's
to this
okay.
platform. I'm so sorry. I'm used to Zoom. So if I just
I know, it's very different.
if I minimize the screen, I'll be able to go through. Oh, wait. I feel like I'm not doing this correctly. Can you see it?
We can. It's a little bit minimized.
I'm gonna pop it up. I just want to make sure that because I can't see the camera and look at the screen at the same time, I'm not gonna be able to see you or the comments, but I'm just gonna go through. So you just let me know if you need me to stop, okay?
Okay. Yep, it looks better. It's full screen now. And it looks great. We can see you. So just so you know, Jamie, we can see you. We can see there's me and you are both on screen on the side, and then your presentation is front and center beside that. So can see both.
Thank you. Sorry. Thank you so much for your patience, everyone. I think we're good to go now. All right. So progress over perfection, how to create sustainable routine after weight loss surgery. Also, if there's anyone here who is pre-op, know that this is very beneficial for you as well to start getting into this mindset even before surgery. So there's a little bit more about me. My name's Jamie. I am a registered dietitian, and I specialize in bariatric support and helping people after surgery really learn the habits that are going to carry them long-term on this journey. I also had weight loss surgery. I had VSG in 2017, which is crazy that 5 years has gone by already. Sometimes it feels like it's just yesterday, and other times it feels like this has been my normal and my whole life, even though it hasn't. I started struggling with weight from a very, very young age. So I struggled with childhood obesity. I was over 200 pounds by the time I was 9. When I was in my teens, I was diagnosed with PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome, which made sense as to why I struggled so much with my weight. And my struggles with my weight is really what inspired me to go to school to be a dietitian, because I had met with many dietitians over the course of my life and did not have a particularly great experience with most of them, unfortunately, because I felt like they didn't understand me. I felt like they didn't understand why I struggled or even believed that I was doing all the things they told me to. So I wanted to make that experience better for other people. So I was actually in my dietetic internship year finishing up school when I had my surgery, and I very quickly realized that there was such a huge gap in support after surgery. My surgical team was great. My dietitian there was great. My surgeon was wonderful. I kind of felt, I don't say dismissed, but I felt like I didn't have that community I was looking for. I remember thinking, gosh, I've studied this field of nutrition for 6 years now, and even I am struggling to understand the best way to implement this lifestyle. I can't imagine how hard it must be for people who don't have the same education I do. So now in my career and in my business, I aim to fill the gap between what patients are being told to do at their centers and what it's like to actually be the patient implementing those habits. So what looks nice on paper doesn't always translate well into your day-to-day life. So I help be that communication system between you and your bariatric center. So when your bariatric center says, hey, I want you to take these vitamins, or I want you to hit this amount of protein, I help you take those recommendations and figure out how you can make it applicable to your life in a way that works for you. So that's really what I specialize in at this point. So today we're going to go over my bariatric meal plate method, how to set up your plates for success, understanding that there is no such thing as the perfect bariatric plate, and then we're going to dive into progress over perfection, so that all or nothing thinking and overthinking that a lot of us tend to struggle with, as well as really focusing on the importance of flexibility and consistency. So I'm going to dive right into the meal plate method. Please stop me if anyone is overwhelmed or confused, but I'm going to take it step by step. So this is my bariatric breakthrough meal plate method, and this is something that a lot of dietitians use their own version of, but the whole point of this is to focus on getting your protein needs met, but also making sure you're adding other foods to your routine over time and really maximizing your restriction. What I mean by that is using your tool to its fullest potential, making sure we're eating foods that are going to keep us full, satisfied, and staying fuller longer so that we can avoid mindless grazing or impulsive snacking in between meals if possible. So I always suggest making half your plate protein. And the reason for this is the ASMBS, which is the American Society for Metabolic and Bariatric Surgery, suggests a minimum of 60 grams of protein per day. I will say there is a little bit of a nuance here. So while I say half your plate protein, I don't suggest progressing to other types of foods too much in your diet unless you're eating at least 3 ounces. So, unless your plate is able to have at least 3 ounces of protein, I don't think it makes much sense to be adding different carbs or even fruits and veggies, different fiber, even though those things are wonderful. And that's because we truly need to get our protein needs met first. And there's a fun little equation I like to teach people, and I so badly wish more surgery centers taught this. But the reason I came up with that 3 ounce protein goal is not because I pulled it out of thin air. It's because for every 1 lean ounce of protein, so lean ounces of protein would be things like lean beef, we've got chicken, fish, low fat dairy, eggs. Every 1 ounce of protein is approximately 7 grams. So, some simple math here. I don't particularly love math, but stick with this. If you have at least 3 ounces of protein on your plate and you know that it's about 7 grams per ounce, that's about 21 grams of protein for each meal. And if we're eating 3 meals a day, that brings you right up to 63 grams. And that will hit that minimum ASMBS requirement. Now, however, we might not be able to eat 3 ounces of protein all at once, and that's okay. This is when you might need to supplement with a protein shake or something. But over time, as you're able to eat more, what I see happen sometimes is people will drink their shakes, not actually be full because it's a liquid, and then move on to eating other things throughout their day, like simple carbohydrates, which we're going to get into, that actually don't keep us as full. And that's where some of the overeating can happen, or you're like, oh my God, why am I hungry all the time? So if we really want to utilize our tool, our new stomach, the way it's intended to be used, I really think sticking with that 3 ounces of protein first makes so much sense. And the reason for this is protein is essential to avoid muscle wasting and malnutrition. So, of all of the nutrient types, protein is the most, of the macronutrient types, I should say, which is protein, carb, and fat. The protein is the most essential. It also manages your appetite and cravings and will help keep you fuller longer. Protein is also very dense, so it sits heavier in our stomach, which is part of the reason it is really good for making sure we're not eating around our restriction, is what I say. So eating foods that might be able to fit versus if, even if we're not super hungry, we can still fit it in, which I'm going to get into. Protein helps maximize that space in our stomach. And I already said some examples, but eggs, chicken, turkey, fish, pork, beef, low-fat dairy, tofu, soy, these all count towards your protein goal. Now, once you're able to hit your protein goal, it absolutely makes sense to start adding some fiber, a lot of those non-starchy veggies to your plate. What this does is it creates bulk in your diet, which is so good for digestion. This also keeps you fuller longer and maximizes that restriction. So you can actually eat quite a bit of volume for pretty few calories. So if you are having your protein and then pairing fiber with it, you'll probably notice that you stay much more full than some other foods. So as time goes on, I just want to say it is so normal to be able to eat more. It is very normal to be able to eat more the further you're out from surgery. So if you're someone who's like, oh my goodness, I feel like I can just keep eating and eating and eating, I really encourage you to try this approach and see what happens. And then if you need to add more veggies to it, you can add more volume to bulk that up without really increasing too many of your calories. Sometimes these are hard to tolerate, so you want to eat them slowly and stop as soon as you're full. Sometimes cooking them can be more helpful. And one thing I meant to say at the beginning that I'm just going to interject and say now is it's so important you always check with your surgical team before changing anything. So while these are some of my suggestions, I always want you going back and making sure you're sticking to your post-op diet or consulting with them first. I sound like, Brenda, were you going to say something?
There was a comment whenever you have a moment.
Sure.
Actually 2 comments. Amy says, met you at the conference in Texas. Love you. So I don't know if she was talking about, I don't know if it was you, Jamie, or if she met me. Okay.
Were you in Dallas? Are we talking about Dallas?
I think she's saying Texas. She says yes. So I don't know if she met, I think she's meaning you, Jamie. She met you. And then Ashley says, I have a question. Should you weigh your lean meats before or after you cook it?
After. So you always want to weigh foods after they're cooked because that's what you're actually eating. It's a really good question.
Yeah, that is a great question.
All right. So it's okay to eat more than just a fourth of your plate if you need more to stay full, which is what I was saying before. Um, and it's also okay if you can't add them in just yet. I get a lot of people who are very concerned. They're like, oh my God, Jamie, like I feel like I don't have a balanced diet. I just eat protein. I should be getting more fruits and veggies. That will come over time. And in the meantime, this is why we take our bariatric vitamins to make sure you're not becoming deficient in these things. So some examples of non-starchy veggies would be broccoli, spinach, lettuce, Brussels sprouts, zucchini, peppers, squash, cauliflower, eggplant, carrots, whatever you really like. Now on to everyone's favorite part of the plate, carbs and starches. I tend to see a lot of people get very anxious around carbs. There's a lot of misconceptions around carbs, lots of diet culture things around carbs, saying carbs are bad, you should never eat them. Um, and I don't believe that's true. Carbs are essential. And while you might not be eating them right away, not because they're bad, not because they're going to cause you to gain weight, but because what I was explaining before, there is a process to this diet progression. You need to make sure you're eating your protein first. You might not be eating tons of carbs right off the bat, but over time, as you're able to expand your diet, I do recommend filling up that last quarter of your plate with either an eighth to a fourth of your plate carbs. So for most people, that'll probably be 1 to 2 ounces or so of carbs, at least to start, once you consider pairing it in with the protein and the vegetables. One thing I want to make a note of, every 1 ounce of carbohydrates is approximately 15 grams of carbs. The reason I think that's important is because I think people assume that as soon as they add fruit or whole grains or bread or oatmeal into their routine, it's going to be all these carbs. If we were to have even just 1 ounce of carb, which is 1 serving, so that would be like 1 thin slice of bread, that would be like a small piece of fruit. If we were to add that with every meal, and we're just considering 3 meals a day, obviously there's snacks and things you probably have in between, but that, if my math is correct, 15 grams of carbs 3 times a day is 45 grams of carb. That is such a low carb diet still. Anything under 100 grams, I consider a lower carb diet. So even if you had 1 serving of a carb with every meal paired with your protein and your veggies, you're getting your carbs in without running the risk of overeating them the same way you would if you were just eating snacky foods without pairing them. The one exception to this where you would probably want to eat more carbs would be if you're doing intense athletic training. And what I mean by that is really intense HIIT cardio. Very often you're training for something strategic like a show or bodybuilding type thing. If you're training for a half marathon, in which case, if that is you, I strongly encourage you work with a dietitian one-on-one to support you in that, to make sure you're being as healthy as possible. I want to bring up the idea of complex versus simple carbs. So I want to stress this as much as I can during this presentation. Carbs are not bad. They are just different in structure, and depending on how we eat them, they can become a slider food. So a slider food is a simple carbohydrate, and those are the snacky foods. So just to kind of go over, they are the foods that are more simple, meaning there's less substance there. There is less fiber, there's less nutrients, there's less to break down when you eat them. Whereas a complex carb, it's more complicated. There's more beneath the surface. So in a complex carb like whole grains or fruit, you're going to have lots of fiber, you're going to have lots of water, you're going to have lots of micronutrients. So as you eat it, it takes much longer for you to chew it, break it down, digest it, and then release sugar into your bloodstream. Whereas if you have a cookie or chips, those break down so easily, which means we're going to digest it quickly. We're going to be able to eat more of them. And it actually releases the blood sugar into our bloodstream very quickly, which can cause a spike in blood sugar, which later will cause a crash. How many of you have ever eaten something high in sugar and like an hour later, you're like shaky, you're a little bit like that ravenous hungry feeling? That's because it's a simple carb that's not paired with something else. If you can even picture chewing, like picture in your mouth, like chewing an apple versus chewing a Cheeto, right? Like let's picture a Cheeto in your mouth. We all know that stuff dissolves in your mouth before you even swallow it, which is also why having these other nutrients paired on your plate is so important with keeping you full. So again, picture chewing a piece of chicken versus a Cheeto. You're going to be able to fit much more volume in of the snacky foods than the Cheetos, which is why it feels like you can eat so much more of them. So if you struggle with that, pairing it with these other nutrients is so important. Brenda, were you going to say something? I feel like I heard you back there.
I actually just unmuted myself because there is a comment. Her name is Jamie. She says, I want to suggest, this is kind of off the subject just a tiny bit, but she said, I want to suggest everyone water, exercise, is absolutely wonderful. I got my balance and muscles back, stopped incontinence, and much more. So I think she's talking a little bit about physical activity, which we may get into more here. I'm not sure, but
so we're actually not going to cover activity today. I just don't have the time in the presentation. There's still so much to cover. Thank you, Jamie, for sharing that. Exercise is amazing. Brenda, would it actually be okay if we held the rest of the questions till the end? I'm worried I'm going to lose my train of thought with the presentation.
No, it's totally fine. Absolutely. Cool. Absolutely. So if anybody is commenting, keep them coming, guys. We're going to.
Brenda, am I good to go? I think you muted yourself.
Yes. So you guys just keep the comments coming. We'll make sure and answer them towards the end.
Okay, cool. Thank you. All right. So once you start adding your carbs to your plate, the last thing is fat. So I want to be mindful of this. This is just in terms of how to build your plate, but you're going to have fat sources from the beginning, whether that's fat in, dairy products, meats, oils, cooking with it. So fats make your way into your diet far before, you go through this progression, but I wanted to just save this to talk more about it. So realistically, I think it's important to have 1 to maybe 2 tablespoons of fat on your plate. Again, though, that doesn't mean you have to add a tablespoon of butter to every meal if you know there's going to be fat in there from your dairy or avocado or a higher fat meat. But this is super, super important for satisfaction. So fat provides a mouthfeel, which means it creates that ooey gooey feeling in your mouth when you eat it. So for anyone who has ever done a low fat diet, and I know most of us at some point in our lives have done a very low fat diet, it's not palatable. It's not enjoyable. And part of food is being able to enjoy it. I know that sounds like taboo. People think that you shouldn't enjoy food. You are allowed to enjoy your food, and you should to keep you satisfied. So if you have a super low fat diet, let's picture you're eating a salad. And I know a lot of people don't tolerate salad, but stick with me for the example. Let's say you're eating a salad with fat-free dressing, absolutely no cheese or anything fat-based in it. I don't know about you, but that is a very unsatisfying salad, and I would rather say no thank you. It doesn't make me want to eat it at all. So it's actually okay to have some fats on your plate to keep you satisfied and keep you fuller longer. Every 1 gram of fat is 9 calories, whereas protein and carbs, it's 4 calories. So the reason I point this out is it is just you want to be mindful of your portions of your your fats, because the calories can add up much more quickly for less volume. So think about peanut butter, for example. A serving of peanut butter is very small, but it's actually quite a bit of calories, and that's why. But it is a myth that fat makes you fat. Fat does not make you fat. It's just very calorically dense. So we want to be mindful of our portions of it, but we don't want to eliminate it entirely either. So a little bit of tough love. If anyone follows me on Instagram or receives my emails, I'm really good for a dose of tough love, emphasis on the love. The goal in the beginning of your journey is actually not to have a balanced plate. The goal in the beginning of your journey is to hit your protein goal and truly listen to your body and relearn those hunger and fullness signals. It's not expected that you will have a well-rounded plate right off the bat. That does come with time, which is why I really encourage everyone to progress their meal plates this way. The further out they are and the more they are able to eat so that they can stay fuller and satisfied. However, that's not to say that you can't or shouldn't have carbs before you're always able to hit your protein. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't have any of those things I mentioned because you struggle with protein. The bigger picture here is being able to maximize that restriction, make sure you're following your surgeon's guidelines, and start by slowly incorporating more foods in when you're ready. So it's important to not add potentially trigger foods in too soon. So you don't necessarily want to add in, for me, cookies have always been a trigger food. I used to be the girl that could sit and eat the entire box of Oreos. So for me, I know that if I added that in too soon on my journey, it would have been overwhelming mentally and emotionally. And I don't think I would have really relearned my habit. So that's another reason we don't add all the foods in right away, but it doesn't mean you don't add them in ever. And one of the things I cannot stress enough is it's not the quantity of your plate that matters, it's the quality. So a lot of people get very scared when they can eat a few more bites or their portions get bigger or they worry that they're eating too much. Focus less on that and focus more on listening to your body and giving yourself really high quality options like those protein and fiber options. And there's no such thing as a perfect bariatric plate. And while I know in that visual I show you this picture perfect plate, it's okay if you don't have every component that I just mentioned on every one plate. No one expects you to. The bigger picture here is you're focusing on that protein first and building nutrients around it to stay fuller longer. It's important to remember that carbs are not bad. You want to focus on eating meals as much as possible versus snacks. And like I said, not every plate is going to have every component, and that's okay. There are some times when my plate has just a protein and a carb and there's no fiber. So I make up for it by having extra veggies later in the day. And this is where we have to start to get out of the all or nothing mentality, because I can guarantee you absolutely no one, no one on this journey, not even dietitians, have perfect plates all the time. It does not happen. And this is where I want you to adopt a mentality of sometimes good enough is good enough. And that might not have been something anyone ever gave you permission to think that way. Overachieving, people pleasing, trying to do things perfect, I think a lot of times there's a huge stigma around people who have surgery that we're lazy, which is such a bad stigma. But I think those stigmas make us feel like we have to prove ourselves even more and do things perfectly. And I'm here to tell you, you don't. And if you are trying to do things perfectly all the time, you are going to set yourself up for disappointment, because it's a standard that it's not even that it's too high, it just doesn't even exist. And now we're going to segue into progress, not perfection. And the fact that consistency is so much more important than perfectionism. So nobody expects you to be perfect except for you. I can almost guarantee you are putting more pressure on yourself than anyone else will. It's about what you do most of the time, not some of the time. So, and I'm going to get into what I mean by that, but it's really the repetition of small habits that will make a bigger impact on your journey long term, versus putting too much pressure on yourself to do everything right all at once. I tell my clients this: you need to fall in love with the process, not the destination. Because if you are promising yourself that if you can just plan every meal, weigh all your food, work out every day, never eat a carb, so that you can get to a goal weight, and then once you get there, you'll be happy, I can tell you from experience that is not true. You need to fall in love with your routine in order to be consistent with it long term and enjoy your day-to-day habits, enjoy the things you do. So how can you take the things you're being told to do on this journey and make them enjoyable for you, or at least sustainable? Because maybe we don't love going to the gym all the time, but we hold ourselves accountable, that type of thing. So that's really, really important, because if you don't enjoy your routine, at least to some degree, you're not going to continue to do it. And it's going to feel like that all or nothing diet mentality we are working so hard to get out of. So I always would say, ask yourself, what would you do in terms of routine that would be healthy and feel good for you, even if it never resulted in weight loss? So I did say we're not going to dive too deep into exercise today, but this is a great example. I ask my clients, okay, you see all these people on Instagram running, it makes you feel like you need to go for a run or sign up for a 5K. But if you hate running, that's going to be a short-lived goal, because you're not enjoying it. What would you enjoy? So what would you enjoy doing every day, or at least most of the time, a handful of days throughout the week maybe, that you would do even if it didn't result in weight loss? What would be enjoyable enough for you to do that it doesn't even, it could benefit your weight loss, but it's not the driving force behind it? Because if weight loss is the driving force behind everything you're doing, that's where you're going to find that burnout versus actually doing things that are fulfilling for you on a deeper level. And this is one of the key things, is you must be flexible in order to be consistent. So I'm going to give you an example. So in this scenario one, stick with me here. This person has a perfection mentality. So this person tries to do something perfectly every day. What ends up happening is they miss one day and fall completely off track. And I know we've all been there. So let's say, this person hasn't been, I'm going to just roll with the workout example. I guess that one's just, it's relatable and easy to visualize. So let's say someone is not working out at all. They're not going to the gym. They're not walking. They're not getting any movement. They're like, you know what? Tomorrow's Monday. I'm going to start on Monday with working out, and I'm going to hold myself accountable. I'm going to work out for an hour every single day. And that's the standard I'm holding myself to. So they do it every day for about a week until they are so burnt out they're never doing it again, because they fell off one day. And because they fell off one day, they feel like, well, I ruined everything. Why bother? And I know so many of you who struggle with this mentality struggle to get out of this cycle. When we have a progress mentality, we're not telling ourselves we have to do something perfectly every day. So maybe you go for a 30, you don't work out at all. You go for a 30-minute walk. You go for a 45-minute walk. life gets busy, you don't go for 3 days, but you're able to fit in a quick walk on your work break the next day and then another day off. And then you're having a really great week. You've slept really well. You've given yourself rest. You're able to move your body those days, and so on and so on. When you pace yourself and you allow yourself flexibility and flexible times to kind of take some time off, you end up being much more consistent because you're instead of aiming for perfection, you're aiming for consistency. So the person who's trying to be perfect is only being perfect about 23% of the time, which isn't enough to sustain you long term. Whereas with a progress mentality, this person was consistent 53% of the time. And that's going to make a much bigger impact long term because this person can also keep going and moving forward. And the all or nothing mentality really does keep us stuck. And just because it isn't perfect doesn't mean it's not good enough. Just because you fell off one day doesn't mean you can't get back to it. You have to learn to have grace for yourself, forgive yourself, and keep going. For sure, hold yourself accountable, but don't beat yourself up on the days when you feel like you are less than perfect. I think overthinking along the lines with all or nothing thinking, they go hand in hand. I really believe that overthinking is a form of self-sabotage. It can keep you stuck. It's what I call that never-ending spinning hamster wheel in your head of just, is this enough? Am I doing this right? Oh, I don't think I'm doing enough. Like, and it can drive you a little crazy. And this actually keeps you stuck because it keeps you from taking action. Because if you're overthinking, well, I only have 10 minutes to work out on my lunch break. Why even bother? Should I do it? Like, if I work out for 10 minutes, it doesn't feel like enough. And then you're just overthinking it. Versus if you just got up from your desk and went for a walk for 10 minutes, you would have done something and taken action. And it just feeds that limiting belief that you're not doing enough, which is what holds most people back. And I always tell my clients this also. It's what you do most of the time, not some of the time. So I would rather you move your body most of the time. You know what I mean? It's okay to take days off. It's okay to have days where your meals are not prepped or ready to go. It's what we do most of the time that makes that bigger impact long term. No one expects every meal to be perfect. There will be days that don't go as planned, and it's okay. You are human. We're bariatric patients, but we're human first, above all else. And don't forget, all of the other habits you work on improving, you know, you're working on all of these habits as a whole, and you want to pace yourself because there are so many different areas of your journey that you have the option to work on. It's okay if you can't tackle it all at once. One of the things that has been really resonated with my tribe members and my membership program is one of my clients had shared with me, and I've since used this example many times. Bariatric surgery is like a juggling act. You've got all these balls, you're juggling all these things in the air between water, vitamins, moving your body, prepping your meals, and not to mention we all have home life responsibilities, whether you have kids, other people take care of work. There's all of these, it's a juggling act, right? It's okay if you drop one of those balls. It's okay. And the way my client described this to me is some of those balls you're juggling are plastic and some are glass. The plastic ones you can drop, the glass ones you cannot. So getting to work, you can't really drop that ball. You got to get there. But if you have to skip a workout one day, that's okay. If you have to drop that ball, just pick it back up the next day. And that's the bigger picture. So I really hope that you enjoyed this presentation. I hope you learned something or able to think about something in a new way. So where else can you find me? I am on social media as the Sleeved Dietitian. If you're on Instagram, please follow me. If you want to reach out personally, you can reach me at support@thesleeveddietitian.com. And then the best way to reach out or to work with me if you would like more support is through my tribe membership, which I'm going to give you a little bit of a rundown of what that is. So this is my signature membership program. It's the Real Insights of Bariatric Eating. So when you enroll, it is a virtual program that is completely self-paced. So it's set up very similarly to a course. You have dietitian-led trainings. That's me leading all sorts of videos, just like I'm talking to you today. There are literally hundreds on there on pretty much any bariatric topic you could you could think of, where I also give you workbooks to work through all of these things with prompts as well. We go over something new every month. We do different challenges. We have I actually have to update this number because we are now over 200 recipes. And then so great is we also do live calls. So on top of having hundreds of resources at your disposal that are all evidence-based and dietitian-led, we also have a virtual calendar. So every month you can come on for live support groups. We have a community. We have other tribe leaders who are credentialed experts, including therapists, doctors. We have other dietitians in there. we have 15 leaders in total who bring something different to the table. All of us, except for one, have had weight loss surgery, and we support you on different topics. I know this might look overwhelming, but this is what our calendar looks like, because we have a support group almost every single day, if not multiple times a day. Some are recorded, some are not. So the ones in blue are the recorded sessions where we protect everyone's privacy, whereas the other ones are live in real time so that people can speak freely and get to know each other and really get that sense of community and support on their journey. This is just another view of our calendar. So you have access to this live calendar on all of these different topics every time you come. We have exercise support groups. We have a lot of consistency support groups. We have a cultural eating support group. We have a neurodivergent support group for people who are neurodiverse and need help with habit planning. We have a book club. We've got so many things within this membership. I can guarantee you there's something for everyone. And the way I've designed this program is I really believe all the puzzles need to fit together. So in this program, you have all the resources and education. It's kind of like what I taught you today, so that you can feel confident creating your goals. You have to prioritize your goals, and I help you do that by supporting you and holding you accountable, as does the rest of our team and the rest of our community. So this is really where the magic happens. So it's self-paced, but then you have the option to go to as many of those support groups as you need to as you're working on the materials. And as a very special thank you for having me today and for allowing me to come and speak to all of you, I have a special discount code. It's ProCare15, and you can use it for 15% off of any of my membership subscription options. And Brenda, I can send you the link. How do I stop sharing? I'll send you the link to share with everyone after, perhaps, just so everyone knows where to find everything. Did I do that correctly? Did I?
Yes.
There we
yes.
go. Okay, great.
Okay.
So
yes, that's wonderful.
Ready to answer all questions. Yeah, so you keep the questions coming. Sorry, everyone. It was really hard for my brain to shift gears to answer questions as I was talking, so I didn't want to miss anything. So now you can lay it all on me.
Well, when we do these, everybody's different, like how the presentation styles, some people, I totally get it, because, and actually sometimes I think it's better just to kind of keep going, because whenever you do that, you get to finish your presentation. Whenever I've had some guest speakers in and we do take comments throughout, they don't always get through, because ends up, you end up trying to answer all the questions. So this worked out really good. No, Jamie, we would love to have a link to your site and where they can kind of get in touch with that. And then the code, is it case sensitive, the ProCare?
Yes, so it's all capital letters 15, and you can use it for any of my membership subscriptions. So I have a month-to-month option. We also have a 3-month option and a 6-month option. The more months you choose at once, the lower the investment is overall. But we always keep that month-to-month option there in case you want to just try it, see if it's for you. And then you could always subscribe to a higher level subscription later if you know you want to stick around. But I'm going to throw the link in the chat box here, and then Brenda, I can send it to you after also.
Yeah, and I'm going to type it. I'm typing it into Facebook here too.
So Ash, is it okay if I start answering some questions? I see some popping up.
Yes.
So Ashley said,
do.
any book recommendations to help with progress over perfection and habit forming tracking? So I know in one of our book clubs, we read Atomic Habits. People really liked that one. I want to also just mention, so one of the other things that we do in the tribe, so when you join, you have access to all of my workbooks, all of my habit trackers, that sort of thing in digital form. That is included. One of the new things we've been doing, though, because our members really like to have hard copies, is we now have some of our guides on Amazon KDP. So this is our consistency challenge book that we have right now, where you get all of the journal prompts and habit trackers. And what you do is you show up to my live workshops with this, and I help guide you through creating your goals, or one of my leaders does. So to give you like an example, this is, we have a monthly to-do list. So these are the things that you have to do in terms of keeping up with tribe materials. Then we have our monthly planner, so you can plan your support groups. You can keep track of your habits with the habit tracker. We have tons of journal prompts. I'm really big on journaling. And again, me and all my leaders help guide you through that. So if you're looking for something that has like actual prompts, we have these workbooks. I do just want to say, if you purchase one, it does coincide with the tribe program. So you would need to be in the membership in order to benefit from all the workshops that we provide in the live events. But Atomic Habits is a great book. And then if you are looking for the like habit tracker piece, that's something that I support people with.
That's a great question. I know recently I was looking at somebody else had some kind of forum going. It was a question and answer, I don't know, on Instagram or something. And they were talking about ways to track habits. And so I think having some kind of tracker or planner can be helpful because like for me, sometimes a checklist, I don't know about you, Jamie. I'm a checklist kind of gal. Like look at this. This is my, I already had a list. You guys are going to crack up. I have my list for today. And then, yes, I know. And then you have yours typed out. So you're a lot neater. And then I made another one because my other one was too messy.
It's not typed. It's like a pad that I found and it has like, I don't remember where I got it, but it has like all the sections. So it keeps me on track.
Yeah. No, I like literally every day have list of stuff. And then I always make sure because like little things pop up during the day. That's why I have two lists here going because my one list got too busy. So yeah, and I feel like habits and journaling and all of that kind of stuff, it just kind of helps you with keeping on track. It looks like there's another comment too.
So personally, I don't think either of them are two evils. So I would disagree with you there. I think that I don't think they're bad to have. I would agree they help with getting your water in. I don't think it's fair to villainize maltodextrin or sucralose. I think what's most important is you find one that you like that's going to help you reap the benefits of getting your protein needs met. So that's a super personal choice. And what's most important is that you are staying hydrated, especially as bariatric patients.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like everybody has different goals as far as ingredients, like what ingredients you want or don't want. And it's kind of a personal preference. You know, sometimes people are a little bit more cautious about certain, I'm going to call it certain ingredients. So it's kind of all about what your own choices, what kind of choices you like to.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I think is super important too is just being mindful of where the research is coming from, because certain, you can read, there can be a research article on one topic and people's like recaps of it will be totally different based on their own bias. And as someone from a research backed field, it's important to recognize what the author's bias was or what your bias was. So it really is a personal choice when it comes to any of those ingredients. So you have to do what feels best for you and your body. Looking for your thoughts on the protein chips as an occasional snack and hydrolyzed protein to meet protein goal as a backup. It's so funny because this is what I mean. Like I really practice what I preach because while a perfectly balanced plate would be ideal, I was in a crunch today. So I made nachos my meal. And what I did was I took the Quest protein chips, I microwaved some cheese on top, and then for extra protein, I took Greek yogurt and made like a ranch seasoning out of it to dip it in. So it ended up being like 35 grams of protein. There wasn't fiber on there, but I was low on protein and needed something quick. So I do think in a pinch, it's totally okay. And this is where we have to get out of that all or nothing mentality, because sometimes good enough is good enough. As I said, work on hitting your needs, have something satisfying, make sure that you're not ravenously hungry, and make sure that you're actually eating. And then, like I said, for example, I'm going to cook dinner tonight and make sure I have extra veggies in it because I didn't have any with lunch. So I think Quest chips are my fave. So I think I'm of the opinion, I think it makes sense, especially with bariatric patients, to have a combination of whole and even some processed foods. And that might not be the opinion everyone has, but I think it's unrealistic to expect to have perfectly whole foods, prepped foods all the time. That's where I think we hold ourselves to like a really high standard, where if you're on the go, I would so much rather you grab a bag of protein chips or even a protein bar, as long as you're being mindful of what else you're eating throughout the day. What's more important is the intent behind it. So if you're eating chips because you feel like binging and you're emotional, that's something to address. If it's because you genuinely enjoy it and you need to grab something quick, it's not that either is okay. It's just important to recognize where that habit is coming from.
So true, Jamie. I'm going to say too, I know for me, like this morning I got up and I was like in a hurry and my electric went off, I told you before. Yeah. And we have like these frozen, my husband deer hunts, so I have like meat sticks.
Love that.
And they were frozen. I just brought them along, and I had some cut up cheese. So like that's my lunch, even though it's not very much vegetables and stuff. But it's like
that's okay.
Sometimes you just got to go with the flow.
And this is what I'm talking about. In a perfect world, we would have a perfect plate, but this is not a perfect world, and we are not perfect people. What was that quote from Breakfast Club? He's like, the world is an imperfect plate, whatever that quote was. It's true though. When you can, have your protein and pair some fiber with it or a complex carb. When you can't, make the best choice you can and know that that's enough and that you have ample opportunities to choose food every day for the rest of your life. You will be choosing food for 3 to 6 times per day for the rest of your life. Let's make it a little bit more enjoyable. Let's stop putting so much pressure to make it perfect. It's not a right or wrong situation. It's what works best for me right now and what also works best for me long term. So how can my choices right now serve me long term, but also make sure that I'm not white knuckling it every step of the way? And that goes back to what I was saying about making sure that you are enjoying the process. So Brenda, if you really like those deer meat sticks, those look great, and you're able to stay full and have your cheese and stay satisfied and get your protein in, that's beautiful. And it's not a right or wrong situation. This meal plate is a guideline to help you avoid, mindlessly overeating slider foods, to make sure you're not eating around your restriction, using your tool, but realizing that there's flexibility within that. Chocolate covered Katie has healthy sweets recipes. Ooh, I'll have to look her up. I love chocolate.
Yeah, I haven't heard that yet either. So sounds really good. One thing that I think helps me more than almost anything is just making sure like your environment is such a big prompter. Like if you have like in your environment, like at your home or your workplace, if you have things available, like for me, if I have things like if I went shopping and I have things available food wise, I'm just talking about basically food, but have things that I can eat makes such a difference as opposed to like thinking, oh my gosh, what am I going to eat? So like at least doing a little bit of planning. Would you have anything to say about that?
Yeah. And I actually, again, anyone who follows me on social media or who knows me at all, and some of you here might follow me already, I am a self-proclaimed lazy meal prepper. This surprises everyone, but just because I'm a dietitian does not mean I like to cook or meal prep. I do not enjoy it. I do not like cooking. I find it tedious and messy, and then I have to clean my kitchen, and I don't want to do any of it. I do it when I have to, but I make it a lot easier on myself. And you don't have to have fancy meal prep. You don't have to have fancy, like perfectly prepped glass containers that a lot of the influencers show. And if that works for them, I'm very happy for them. And that's great. For me, absolutely not. So if you need quick grab and go options, like a lot of the times I'll make a snack plate. So I'll take turkey and cheese roll-ups and I'll pair it with some cucumber and some hummus and I'm good to go. A quick, easy plate. Or even my clients in my program that I was just working with would laugh at me because, I'm always about like getting the point across. But one of my favorite meals, and you guys might laugh or be like, oh my God, like the dietitian said this. I love a good chicken nugget, guys. Give me a good chicken nugget any day. I buy the Simply Organic, and you don't need organic ones, but Simply Organic Purdue has low carb chicken nuggets. They are little dinosaur ones, and a serving is 3 ounces of protein. It's got like 15 to 20 grams of protein, and it's only 7 grams of carb. I like to air fry that, and then I'll do some kind of like cauliflower rice or some kind of like veggie on the side that I can throw in the microwave. It takes like 5 minutes. I'm satisfied and happy. And I just made my life a whole lot easier for myself. So I think because of society and diet culture, we think there's all these rules on us. And granted, as bariatric patients, we do have our diet to follow and our guidelines. So I'm not saying to minimize those by any means, but I think we have these ideas that if it's not perfect, it's not good enough. And I'm here to tell you, after 5 years out from surgery, my air fried chicken nuggies are doing just fine.
And I think that you have a huge point there because there was a fitness coach that our ProCare team was working with. And one of her biggest points was, you have to kind of look at what your lifestyle is. Like, are you one of those people that goes out to eat all the time? And that's okay. But, you have to like start choosing places, like looking at the places that you're choosing and like looking at those. Are you somebody who doesn't like to cook? Like you said, then finding ways to get around that you can do meal planning that's super easy and super. Mm-hmm. So you have to know what your lifestyle's like. And it looks like.
The thing is, we can't hide from life. So what I mean by that is if you can't live your life because of your food choices, you need to adjust your food choices, because there's always going to be a holiday. There's always going to be a gathering. There's always going to be a night out to eat. There's always going to be a party. How can you adapt to that and find that balance, but also prioritize your needs and make sure that your choices are in line with your goals? So like me and my husband love to go out to eat. And so I don't like to cook at home. And I always have this basically like toddler looking meal at home, to be honest with you, my little plates. But when I go out to eat, if I'm going to go out to eat and go out to dinner, I like to be bougie. I'm like, listen, I'm not wasting one bit of stomach space on this for something I don't actually want. So like one of my favorites, I posted last week, we went to a restaurant. I love beef tartare. It's not everyone's favorite thing, but it's like beef carpaccio. It's like a very rare, like chopped up like beef. And it's totally bariatric friendly. And it's like, I don't know, it's like fancy. And I'm like, I'm going to have a little fancy meal that has my protein and tastes good and I enjoy. My husband will laugh at me because we'll also go out to dinner and I'll sometimes order like the 16-ounce prime rib. And I'm like, listen, I got meal prep for the rest of the week now. So have the thing that you like, choose that protein option, make a really productive choice for yourself, but make sure you enjoy it. Because if you are like me and the thought of eating boiled or grilled chicken with broccoli makes you like a little bit repulsed, it's okay. Like you're allowed to have palatable, good foods. Just make sure you're making conscious choices. And again, this is why this all starts with the education piece of this.
And it looks like Amy says Dollar General sells single products to test, like Quest, Premier Protein.
Oh.
I don't know how to pronounce this, Cirox, but that's interesting. I didn't know that. I hardly ever go grocery shopping at Dollar General, but I have noticed they have foods there, so that's
okay.
Good to know.
So recently I've been going, and the reason I've been going is I have found out that they have the best like options for like Crystal Light, like we were just talking about, and like the sugar-free packets for your water. So I will say I am very good with my water at this point. I usually drink 3 of these per day, so it's about 90 ounces. However, I almost always have a flavor pack in there, and they have like soda flavors. So they have, and they're all sugar-free. They have like a ginger ale flavor that I'm obsessed with. And it's so helpful for me to get my water, and they're only like $1.25. I was Sleeved 12 years ago. I am so bad about getting regular meal and acting like I don't like it. And I'm reading that again. Amy, I'm confused. Can you explain that to me a little bit better? Are you confused, Brenda? I don't know what she's.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure either. I'm not sure. We'll let her explain it maybe a little better. Maybe we'll understand.
Yeah. But before we wrap up, does anyone have any other questions for me? I want to make sure that if you have nutrition questions about anything I said, questions about my program, questions about how to find me, I'm able to answer those for you.
See, and I'm checking Facebook. I don't see anything there. If anybody does have anything on Facebook, please feel free to comment. Okay, it looks like Amy's commented back. Oh.
One of the other things I wanted to just mention to everyone, I was talking to Brenda about this before we popped on. Again, if you follow me on social media, you've probably seen me post it there. But I am in the process of writing a book. So I'm currently writing a book. My deadline is end of March, and by this summer it should be published. It's all about bariatrics. It's all about bariatric surgery. It's all about advocacy for people who struggle with obesity, the fact that obesity is a disease, and how surgery can be such a beautiful option. And in the book, I cover so many nuances that people never think of. So if you'd like to come along with me on this process, I'm sharing like the good, bad, ugly, all the things in between of what it looks like writing this book. So that's another thing I'm documenting on my social media page too.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that, Jamie. I'm excited about, I'm looking forward to ordering that and checking it out. So Amy basically, I think, was saying that when she orders, that maybe the people at the restaurant maybe think because she's not eating everything. I think she's saying that maybe she gets it for free because they think that she didn't like it. I think that's funny.
Yeah, that's happened to me a few times too. So Lisa said, what snacks do you recommend for low blood sugar to raise quick? So if you have struggled with low blood sugar, I really encourage you to talk to your team about this. There's like sometimes bariatric patients will have like reactive hypoglycemia, which means after you eat a couple hours later, you'll get like a low blood sugar episode. So you definitely want to talk to your team if you're experiencing that. But the quickest way to raise blood sugar is to have a simple carb. So those slider foods. Now we want to be mindful of how we eat those, but if you are having like a low blood sugar episode, having some sugar, even having a little bit of juice is what you need to raise it, to make sure that you're not really dropping in blood sugar levels. But I will say, in order to prevent blood sugar levels, and I don't know if you're someone who struggles with diabetes, because what you need to do with your medical team might be different than what I suggest here. But for the average person, what I would say in order to avoid low blood sugar episodes is to really focus on pairing your snacks the same way I suggest pairing your nutrients at meals. So when you have something carb-based or you have something more sugar-based, pair it with a protein. So I like to encourage people to create their goals from a place of abundance versus scarcity. So rather than focusing on what you have to cut out of your diet, focus on what you can add to it. So if you are and again, I'm not saying everyone run out and eat Oreos, but let's say you're you're further along in your journey, you're allowed to have all foods fit at this point. You go to have a serving of Oreos, which unfortunately is only 2, but you have 2 Oreos. Pair it with a yogurt. Have a yogurt at the same time you're eating it to get some protein in your system to avoid that blood sugar crash or those blood sugar episodes. All right. Brenda, was there anything else that we were going to cover today or talk about?
I just have something related to our sponsor, but as far as content and questions for you, Jamie, I think you've answered. Amy says we use instant glucose gel than a carb peanut butter. So kind of doing just what we said, kind of pairing those two to kind of stabilize the blood sugar and you have a rapid, something to get your blood sugar up right away, but then also something that keeps it up and keeps it stabilized. So that's awesome. If it's okay at this point, I might share a little something regarding our sponsor, ProCare. So if you guys, if you've came on to these before, I'm going to kind of, you probably are familiar. Usually at the end of these, we try to share a little something regarding our sponsor. So you guys are going to see me pop on, and we usually have a little problem solution. So one of the problems is maybe you want an easy to carry, along with your vitamins and protein shakes. Any ideas? Meaning a way to carry your vitamins and protein shakes. I don't know how it's worded a little bit crazy. And so I'm going to share this. ProCare actually has these fun little protein funnels. We brought them to one of our conferences recently, and we brought 200 or 300 of them, and they came out or they were, we didn't sell them, we gave them away, but they were gone within, probably an hour. People absolutely love them. So the very top of this little protein funnel screws off, and you can put in there your multivitamin, your calcium, that type of thing. And then you also can fill the middle section with protein powder. And then the very tip top, which is the little piece here at the very tip top, it has a little funnel, and you can put that into a water bottle or whatever, and open it up, and your protein shake will actually just come out really easily. So I'm actually going to just pop out of that, and I'm going to pop onto our ProCare Health website, show you guys where that's at. If you go to procarenow.com, I'll copy this so that you guys have it. I'll post it in the chat box. If you go down to products under extras, that is actually where our protein funnels are listed. We actually have meal prep containers too, and chapstick under there. I'm not sure why the chapstick, just a fun little add-on, I guess. But here's our little protein funnels. And they come in 4 different colors, purple, pink, green, and blue. So I am going to stop sharing, and I'll post that in the chat box to our website to find that. And I'll post it over to Facebook here right after we get off. It's just a little bit much to type in on my phone because I'm usually monitoring on my phone. So I'll post that over there, but it's procarenow.com if you're just wanting to kind of cruise over in that direction. And it looks like Elisa says, thanks. I went to prep snacks for prep for lows. Yes. It's a great way to, I always seem to have, and I don't know, Jamie, if you do this, but I always seem to make sure I have a book bag that I carry along with me everywhere. And I almost always try to carry some kind of little snacks in there that are easy on the go. And for me, one of the easy snacks that are kind of for my blood sugar, because my blood sugar, I've never been diagnosed with low blood sugars or whatever, but I notice whenever I'm starting to get hangry, you know what I mean? And I always like nuts, nuts with maybe some fruit in it or something, because it kind of like those seem to really help my blood sugar, and all I need is a small handful of them and I'm like ready to go again. Do you have a favorite as far as an on the go kind of snack?
Yeah, so my favorite is actually, I love the little Vermont brand, like meat sticks, kind of like what you have, but the mini turkey pepperoni ones. Those fit very nicely in my purse. So I like to, if I'm going to go do errands, I'll throw a couple of those and a baby belt cheese in there. Fruit is actually really great to have on the go. I know we like to demonize fruit in, society, but fruit can be a great option. So if you're to take a little one of those meat sticks or beef jerky and pair it with, a clementine or something, super, super easy and simple. I also will grab, as long as I'm not going to be gone too long, I don't need to refrigerate anything. I will also grab like hard-boiled eggs on the go, throw them in a little bag, have that with the meat stick, and that's really helpful. Also, Quest chips, like I said, I love Quest chips.
Those are all great things. And Amy just asked about samples with vitamins. We do offer free samples, guys. If you're listening on either forum, I'll post the link on Facebook here very shortly for that. But on our website, we have a little tab that says free sample. You just click that and we offer a whole list of free samples. Carrie, there's a couple more quick things before we pop off. It looks like Maya says, so later on when it's allowed, oatmeal is okay after bariatric surgery.
Totally. Of course, always follow your bariatric guidelines, talk to your team. But once you're hitting your protein goals, I think oatmeal is a great option. You definitely want to make sure you're not choosing an oatmeal that's super high in sugar. I like the plain rolled oats. Pro tip, when you microwave them, if you microwave them, don't use water. Instead, use like a protein shake or a high protein milk like Fairlife, and it'll add protein. So you're already pairing your protein with the oatmeal. So I think, or even have a little bit of, oatmeal and some eggs in the morning and pair it together the same way I kind of described. So I think oatmeal is a great option.
That is actually a wonderful option. I hadn't thought about that before, but you actually get in, that extra protein too. Yep. Carrie says, can I use flavor tubes to flavor my water? And I think you mentioned this earlier. It might have been before Carrie popped on. And
I think it's a great way to get your water in. Absolutely. I was just saying that's what I do. If I will just tell you up front, if I did not use the flavor packs, Crystal Light, all of those water enhancers, I would be one of the most dehydrated people. It is the only way I seem to get my water in. I don't know why. I used to be a huge plain water drinker before surgery, and I know I'm not alone. A lot of people have experienced this where it's like hard to drink plain water after. I don't know why. And it's almost like makes me a little nauseous. It's weird. So like for me, if I'm going to stay hydrated and hit my water goal, that's a tool that I need to use in my tool belt. So I think if you need to use it too, that's totally okay.
I am just shipped. I'm sending my email here to Amy. Amy, you're welcome to reach out to me too. We do offer on a facilities. If anybody's here listening from a facility standpoint, we would love to reach out directly to you. We have all kinds of free resources to offer from a facility standpoint for your patients.
I'd actually like to add in there too, Brenda, if that's okay. If you are from a facility, if you work at a bariatric center, if you're a nurse, a dietitian, whatever, I also have free resources for providers to give to their patients. So if you're looking for some extra resources to support your patients in education outside of the center, to reinforce the things that you are teaching there, that's something I also provide. So you can head to my website and go, and I have like a little form to fill out, and I can set you up with some great things. So just wanted to throw that out there too.
Jamie, thank you for offering that.
Yeah,
that's super sweet, because I know, like, coming from the facility side, I remember whenever I worked in a bariatric program, it's nice to have other people's resources to kind of pair with, because sometimes you're creating from new. I know our program, when we first created, it was from starting from new. And if you're new to that role, or maybe maybe you're just wanting more education on bariatrics in general, it's always helpful. Yep, totally. So thank you.
Of course.
Thank you so much. So I guess you guys, Amy said this has been awesome. Thank you, Amy.
Thanks for having me. This has been wonderful. I appreciate you guys inviting me on, and hopefully we'll do this again. I love getting to teach, and I love getting to share my presentations. I'm one of those unusual people who doesn't mind public speaking, and I don't mind presenting things, and I actually really enjoy it. So this is really fun. Hopefully power comes back on soon over there, Brenda, and you're not getting buried in snow. Our snow finally just started, and I see it coming down, so we're getting buried too.
It's so cool, isn't it? It's just like, I mean, it's so beautiful. I love seeing the snow. It's just, it's incredible.
I don't particularly love it, but it's okay. I'll live. I'm the one who lives in Connecticut. I have no choice but to deal with it. So. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. This has been wonderful. Yes. I appreciate it.
Yes, thank you so much. Jamie, you can stay on. When we end the presentation, we'll still be on. So bye, everybody.